Welcome to another day of 100 Days of Propagation for Sale. Now today I'm not going to be propagating in an actionable way, but I do want to talk about propagation. Since I've started all these workshops, one of the questions that I get I would say not very often, but once in a while someone would ask me, did I study horticulture or how did I grow my love for plants? And so as I'm recording this series of 100 Days of Propagation, I want to share with you, just kind of have an honest talk. Like, why me? Why am I sharing this? Where are my credentials to teach propagation? And why propagation? And so I grew up being submerged around plants, and we lived in a big city. In a skyscraper tower, and so we only had one wall with all the windows, and my mom utilized that wall from the horizontal to vertical to maximize the amount of sunlight that her plants can get. And those plants absolutely everywhere, like in the bathroom, in our bedrooms, and it was just something that we were integrated with. And when I say were, I mean my sisters and I, well, my entire family, we were just submerged in it. My grandma too was someone who loved gardening and had plants were very important in her life. And so I kind of carried on. Now, beside watering the plant, repotting, and giving your plant sunlight, I didn't know much about plants at the time. And when I first got married, my mom had gifted me her Boston fern, my grandma's 10-year jade plant that she grew from a cutting, and a chili pepper plant, because I love spicy food, but who doesn't? And so when I got married, moved in with my now husband, we had these 3 plants on our little tiny studio, window balcony apartment, and they were thriving. They thrived so well. I'm gonna try to find some photos to pop in here. I don't know if I took many photos at the time, and then my collection started growing and growing and growing. And at the time I was finishing my undergrad in interior design, and I did my undergrad thesis, and that was the first time I've ever heard of biophilic design. Now, if you're not familiar with the term, it was actually birthed or recognized by E.O. Wilson. He was a very influential biologist and a Harvard professor for decades. And he came up with this concept, well, he didn't come up with the concept, but he, I would say, affirmed this concept of biophilia, and that we are innate with nature. And so the biophilic design principles started developing, where how do we reconnect with nature indoors, and especially with the industrial era where we started losing outdoor space, then how do we recreate that environment indoors? And so that was the first time I've heard the concept of biophilic design. And I decided to do my undergrad thesis on the impact of biophilic design in an outpatient operative ambulatory unit. And through that research, I was blown away with how evidence-based research shows immense, tremendous, and innumerable benefits to connecting with nature. And so since then, I started growing my plant collection. And now I want to mention something. If you struggle with having plants in your home, and I've heard this a lot, oh, I just have a condo, I only have a window, or I have a north-facing window, I can't grow plants. Well, I grew my plant collection to 250 houseplants with one north-facing window. Yes, one large north-facing window. No grow lights. I did not even know that grow lights existed at the time. And were they thriving? They were. They were. I've lost a few along the way, but that's when I really fell in love with connecting with nature, with tendering to plants. And I started diving into the horticulture mediums and just really fell in love with that aspect. Now, then I fell in love with learning about sustainability and reducing our carbon footprint and just the health aspect and the wellness aspect of biophilic, where we're considering indoor air quality and how we tangibly move within our space, and visually how do we connect ourselves to nature directly and indirectly through sound, through touch, through materialism, when we're touching raw natural elements. And so it snowballed from there. And then, of course, life happens, and I've gotten a cancer diagnosis when I was pregnant with my daughter. And I share my story, and I'll post that up here. And it became a very challenging, one of the most challenging times in our lives, because not only that she was a high risk pregnancy, but then followed up with a major health issue. And during that time, I have to admit, a lot of my plants got neglected as I tried to navigate taking care of my body, taking care of myself, and I wasn't really able to nurture anything else. And once I had my baby, I went through recovery, and again, my doctors reaffirmed something that I learned back when I was doing my undergrad thesis, which is interesting because remember, I did my undergrad thesis related to biophilia in a healthcare environment. Well, here I am now going through that health challenge and having amazing health professionals take care of me and telling me that the way that I need to recover is by connecting with nature and going outside for 30 minutes every day, rain or shine, minus 30 or not Celsius, winter, snow, whatever it is, go outside and connect with nature. And we've done that religiously for months, and I've recovered better than I thought I would. After having my baby, then after going through that recovery for myself, then Miracle Baby 2 happened. And after Miracle Baby 2 happened, well, during actually, I was pregnant with baby number 2, my daughter started to show interest with our houseplants, as you can see in the back. And instead of telling her that this is a plant, I decided I'm going to use this as a learning opportunity, and I'm going to teach her what the actual names are, which led me into writing my first ABC book of houseplants. And the book is a reference book. The kids learn about the alphabets, they learn how to spell, they learn vocabulary, they learn literacy, they learn how to relate or how to differentiate, or I would even say identify a plant that they see in an illustration form to real life. Now, the book, I would say the vision really unfolds throughout the pregnancy. And when my son was born, then I started putting it together as a book. And the idea was I wanted to form this book to give it to my daughter. And I realized that more and more people wanted an opportunity to share it with their children. And so I did an exclusive print right here in Ottawa. It's FSC certified. And this was my way of reducing my carbon footprint by printing locally. And I'm on my last batch of books. If you do want to grab yourself a copy, I will put the link below as well. It's an exclusive, only 1,000 books were printed. And so once they're gone, they're completely gone and will not be reprinted. Now back to the story. So once the book happened, I started pitching myself and getting invited to host children plant-based workshop. And I've done that. I've taught over 100 kids on different planting methods, propagation. Then I started getting into schools and teaching your kids in schools about all the methods. And then propagation. Propagation reminded me that it's not only about cutting a plant. It's about connecting ourselves with nature in a very different way. And when you're going through a very hard time, seeing those little roots grow makes you realize that there's something so precious about life. Life is not guaranteed. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. No matter how long your checklist is, no matter how much you fall into the routine, tomorrow is not guaranteed. We're not guaranteed to wake up. We're not guaranteed to have breath in our lungs. We're not guaranteed to wake up healthy. We're not guaranteed to wake up at all. We can go through our day and it could be our last day. And so, not to be a downy, but to really share with you how plants is a form of life. And when you propagate, you are cutting from a thriving mother plant. You're taking a baby, a part of her, and growing that baby and seeing life take place. There's something so beautiful about seeing roots come out from a cutting, because sometimes in those challenging times, life feels so small. Life feels so slow. Things are going slow. But let me tell you that no matter how slow it's going, it's going. It's gonna grow. It's gonna thrive. And you gotta believe in it. You gotta believe in it. And I think there's something so beautiful in introducing our children how to propagate. Yes, it's a fun activity. Yes, they can propagate all kind of different plants and get excited about cutting and about decorating their glass vessel or their planter. But I want to share with you that propagating is something so much more than just cutting the plant. It's giving the plant the opportunity to grow and thrive. When you're doing that, it's almost like an act or like a symbol. It's a way to help you feel encouraged when you see those little roots grow. And so when you're propagating, and as you're following the series, and if you're propagating a specific plant in your house, I challenge you to do two things on that jar or that glass vessel. One, I challenge you to write the date that you're propagating, and do this with your child. You can write it with a marker. And two, I want you to write, if it's okay, write something that you're believing for in 2026, or something that you're praying for, or something that you're envisioning for. It could be health, it could be your finances, it could be your dream, it could be a goal, it could be absolutely anything. Something on your heart, write it down. And as you watch these roots grow, I want you to be reminded that whatever you're believing in can also grow and thrive and flourish. Now, if your cutting does not work out, that's not a moment of discouragement. That's reminding you that life happens and we gotta pick ourselves up and keep going and do another cutting. And so there's so many life lessons that we can learn from propagation. I just want to invite you to include your children in this propagation series. Now, I kind of changed the way I've been making videos. In the beginning, I thought, hey, I'd love to share with children my passion for plants and kind of what I was teaching in my workshops. However, in my own personal life, we have reduced screen time. My husband and I have reduced screen time tremendously in our household. At first, it was hard, but the kids are a little bit used to it now. And we saw tremendous benefits in our kids' behavior with reducing screen time. And I'm not here to talk about whether you should do screen time or not, or that is your own personal prerogative and your parenting style. But I just wanted to share why I've shifted. And now I want to make these videos for you so that you can teach the little ones in your life. So they don't need to watch this video. They can with you if you'd like. But the idea here is that you can watch the videos and learn something and integrate it in their daily activity, and you can create an activity with it. And so integrate them. And there's other ways you can do this as well. You can make it an entire activity. I've done this before, and I do this in my workshop where we integrate an arts and craft component in propagation. So they can draw and decorate their vessels with markers and stickers. And then we get to propagate. We can even top it off with another decoration, or when you're potting or replanting, you can do absolutely the same. And so make it a fun activity. And I also have resources on my website. I'll put those link below on how you can continue the learning when it comes to houseplants and anything plants. I have tracing letters where your little ones can learn how to trace the different letters of the alphabet related to the plants from my first ABC book of houseplants. I also have an entire nature-based kit for parents, for you and I. And it's one of those rainy day booklets that you whip out and the kids kind of do these activities, but they're all plant-based related. And I just want to inspire you, encourage you. There's tremendous benefits. I can list them and name them. Actually, I will probably pop a few research that I hold on to very close to me, because those evidence-based research shows the psychological benefits, the emotional benefits, the development benefits, to developmental benefits of connecting with nature. And so join me for this 100 days of propagation, and let's learn together, take risks together, and let it shape how we connect with nature in 2026. Now, I'd love for you to connect with me. Feel free to drop your favorite plants in the comments, or if there's a plant that you love me to propagate, drop it in the comments. And I'd love to connect with you in that way. If you've been loving this series, hit the like button and follow the journey. And I'll see you tomorrow for another day of propagation with Priscilla.